You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Today is Wednesday, hump day, as they say. 5th day of March, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. This week is a unique week. Michael has taken his first full-fledged vacation since 2008. He completely unplugged. Unheard of for him because he's a bit of a workaholic. So if you happen to be listening, Michael, we hope you're having a great time. We wish you all the very best. You're on a much overdue and well-deserved vacation. But we really do look forward to seeing you back in the saddle come Monday. Now, this is our afternoon schedule. These 2 parts won't happen today, tomorrow, or Friday. Why? Michael's on vacation. That's why. Now, this afternoon broadcast, unlike the morning broadcast on a normal week, you got to be a member or a trial member to get in. But this afternoon broadcast is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways you can join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In that email, there's a link, so at 12 noon Eastern, all you do is click the link in the email, and it logs you right into our platform. The benefit there is you have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Now, there'll be days when you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, can't join live, but want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. You already know the youtube.com part. Just add a /CFRN. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,700 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to the world of CFRN, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. In fact, thanks to the power of YouTube, you can see how we've evolved over the years, from whence we began to where we are now. Obviously, you're not going to watch all 2,700 daily episodes, but just poke around. Pick a day at random. Jump to another year, pick a day at random. You get the idea. youtube.com/CFRN. We're going to go ahead and dive right. This is our schedule, as I said, for the afternoon broadcast each and every day. So we're going to get right into our daily devotional, and then we'll get to the markets. We're in day 6 of 7 on the topic, how to deal with complicated people. Today's scripture, Matthew 5, verse 9, and I'm sharing it from the Message translation. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. Matthew 5, verse 9. Now, when you're dealing with complicated people, needless to say, you're going to have some complicated conflicts. In fact, big fights often start over small issues. For example, maybe you ask someone an innocent question, but they take it the wrong way and snap back. This triggers a cold response from you, which only ticks them off even more. They respond with real venom, and soon you're going toe-to-toe over an issue that isn't even the real issue anymore because the whole thing escalated quickly. I've learned the hard way that the success rate of reactions in conflict isn't very high. Reactions are often defensive, offensive, or both. They are accusatory, villainizing, and emotionally charged. They point fingers, find faults, and cast blame. But they don't really resolve the conflict. They just exaggerate it or bury it. Complicated people are often conflict magnets. So if we're going to get better at interacting with them, we have to find better ways to resolve conflict than blowing up, shutting down, or walking out. Let me share a few decisions that we need to make. 1. Decide we actually want peace. The Bible says in Romans 12:18, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Conflict resolution starts with the choice to do what you can to pursue healthy peace, which means getting to the bottom of issues and finding solutions that work. Number 2, decide what hills you're going to die on. There are some hills not even worth climbing, much less defending to the death. Not every disagreement should be escalated. Not every offense must be avenged. Do you know what hills you die on? Are there any hills you need to walk away from right now? Number 3, decide to play our part. Healthy conflict resolution requires knowing what you can and can't do. Here's a hint. You can't control them. You can only control you. Rather than wishing they'd change, focus on what is within your power. Could you change your thinking, your attitude, your expectations, your words, your actions? And number 4, decide to speak the truth in love. You can read about speaking the truth in love in Ephesians 4:15. Now, a lot of people love to speak the truth, but truth without love can be just a club to beat people over the head. None of us have all the truth anyway, which is why we need to saturate our words with love. What is the most loving way to share whatever is on your mind? Remember, conflicts don't have to be win or lose scenarios. Rather than charging into disagreements with fists raised, try de-escalating the situation and getting back to dialogue. Say things like, I could be wrong, but, or I'm curious about your perspective on our interaction. Then listen, learn, and love. With a little work, you can often find solutions that work for everyone. And you might even make a friend in the process. Let's pray. Jesus, help us to be peacemakers, peacekeepers, and peace bringers. We want to be mature, humble, and secure enough to resolve conflicts in a healthy way. I ask for your wisdom to know how to respond in each difficult situation and complicated conversation. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. And happy Wednesday. All right, let's do the numbers from around the world. We'll start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. All right. The Dow up 127 points. The Nasdaq up 5. S&P 500 down less than a point. The Russell 2000, our man in the street, unfortunately, is down 6 points. In the commodity basket, crude oil, oh my goodness, down $2.95, trading 65.29 last. That's a drop of over 4.25%. That's one of the biggest drops in oil that I recall in a while. Yeah, Chris, you're right. That is low. It's incredible. Gold, on the other hand, is actually up $11.60, trading 29.32.30 last. Silver up 67 cents, trading 33.05 last. That's a gain of a little over 2%, or a little over $2,500 per contract traded. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei posted a gain of 87 points. Shanghai rose 17. The Hang Seng gained 652 points. That's almost 3%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 3. The DAX up 754. That's over 3%. The CAC up 125. That's over 1.5%. So that gave us a green day in Asia. It's a mixed day for the UK. And it is, at the moment, a mixed Radio Wednesday here in the U.S. of A. Again, the Dow up 116. These are the cash markets. NASDAQ up 11. Make that 13. S&P 500 now up almost a point. And now the Russell 2000 is only down less than 2 points. So could it be we have a turnaround Wednesday in the making? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But perhaps. Perhaps. So, ever been to Panama? I haven't. But a group of investors led by American asset manager giant BlackRock has agreed to buy majority stakes in 2 strategic ports at both ends of the Panama Canal. The nearly $23 billion deal places 2 of the 4 major points along the 51-mile canal more firmly within U.S. influence. The U.S. purchase comes after President Donald Trump expressed concerns about potential Chinese influence over the Panama Canal's operations. In addition to acquiring Hong Kong-based C.K. Hutchinson's 90% ownership in Panama's Balboa and Cristobal ports, the BlackRock consortium will gain control of more than 40 ports in 23 countries, including Mexico, the Netherlands, Egypt, Australia, and Pakistan. The Panama Canal is a vital trade route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and the U.S. is its largest user, accounting for roughly 70% of its shipping traffic. The U.S. built and operated the canal from its opening in 1914 until ownership was transferred to Panama in 1999 under a treaty signed in 1977. Last year, the canal made nearly $5 billion in revenue. It was President Carter that handed over the Panama Canal to Panama. I don't know. I'm sure he had his reasons. Gun makers are challenged. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments yesterday in a $10 billion lawsuit filed by Mexico against U.S. gun manufacturers, alleging they are complicit in supplying firearms to drug cartels. The lawsuit claims 70 to 90% of guns recovered in Mexico originate in the U.S. The justices, who appeared skeptical of Mexico's claims, will decide whether to dismiss an appeals court ruling that allowed Mexico to sue the companies. Mexico argues gun manufacturers knowingly profit up to $170 million from sales to traffickers who then smuggle weapons into the country, where strict laws make civilian gun purchases nearly impossible. You know, I spent a lot of time in Mexico as we built the mission there. And in fact, for a number of years, my wife and I would go every other weekend. And I never saw a gun, except Policia. And they got big guns. But the common man, the man in the street, no. It's very difficult to legally purchase a gun in Mexico. But the bloodshed there from guns is undeniable. I'm sure you've seen horrific pictures on the news. The case is brought by Smith & Wesson and wholesaler Whitmer Public Safety Group. 6 other companies were dismissed in August who claim protection under a federal law barring lawsuits for criminal activities involving their products. A ruling favoring Mexico would weaken legal protections for gun makers and expose other industries to similar liability suits. Mexico has since said it may expand the lawsuit, arguing the companies are enabling terrorism from the Trump administration's designation of 6 Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. A ruling is expected by late June. So, because President Trump is now calling the cartels terrorists, which I think you'd agree they are. You probably know someone who's died from fentanyl. And of course they do the cocaine, the heroin, the crack, the methamphetamines, all of it. And it's all laced with fentanyl now because it's so very highly addictive. They even sprinkle it in the pot, I'm told. So for Mexico to say that the designation of the cartels as terrorists, that's kind of a weak defense. So we'll see what happens when the Supreme Court rules. And that should be by late June. All right, Wall Street, what do you got? U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs are reshaping U.S. trade policy and overhauling decades of free trade agreements with friend and foe alike. Here's where things stand with various U.S. trade partners. Canada and Mexico. Trump's 25% across-the-board tariffs on its U.S. neighbors went into effect yesterday, March 4th. Canada retaliated with a package of tariffs on $107 billion of U.S. products, some immediate. Mexico's president said it would announce retaliatory tariffs beginning on Sunday. Yesterday, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said Trump is considering offering both countries a path to some tariff relief as soon as today. Trump didn't offer any details on this in an address to Congress yesterday. Instead, just preparing markets for a little disturbance. And yeah, we've seen that. Duties on China went into effect in early February, and China retaliated. Trump's second move doubled the rate of tariffs on Chinese imports to 20%. China has responded with up to 15% duties on U.S. farm goods such as chicken and pork to start on Monday. European Union. Trump has threatened tariffs on the EU in a move that could bring his trade war across the Atlantic. This year will be remembered as the Great Tariff War. From Bloomberg, financial markets are signaling that the risk of a recession is growing as tariff-related uncertainty and indicators of economic weakness spread fear across Wall Street. A model from JP Morgan Chase shows that the market-implied probability of an economic downturn has climbed to 31% as of yesterday. That's a move from 17% at the end of November. Key indicators like 5-year treasuries and base metals are showing an even higher toss-up chance of a contraction. While it's far from the base case, a similar model from Goldman Sachs also suggests recession risk is edging up at 23% as opposed to 14% in January. After a wild ride in the markets yesterday, economic sentiment is darkening as money managers and corporate executives struggle to cope with the volatility created by the tariffs. Trump defended his plan to remake the global trading order in his address to Congress last night, acknowledging that there may be some discomfort ahead. Growing pains. Also, President Trump is calling for Congress to get rid of the CHIPS Act, the Biden administration's signature legislation meant to boost semiconductor production and research in the U.S. and wean the country off its dependence on chips made overseas. During his address before a joint session of Congress yesterday, Trump called the CHIPS Act a horrible, horrible thing for research facilities across the U.S. According to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the U.S. accounts for just 10% of the world's chip production. It may also be remembered as the Great Chip War. From Bloomberg, Walt Disney is eliminating roughly 200 jobs across its ABC and entertainment TV networks, according to an internal memo. The majority of the cuts affect the ABC News division in New York. Production units, including ABC News Studios 2020 and Nightline, will be consolidated, and the impacted employees will be notified today, according to the memo. ABC News Group and Disney Entertainment Networks continually evaluates new ways to effectively manage resources and boost efficiencies. The data-driven news website 538 will also be shut down. Nate Silver, who founded the site, said in a post on X that 538 produced a lot of extremely valuable data and insight for everyone who wants to understand politics. Since 2023, Disney has eliminated more than 8,000 roles as part of an effort to cut $7.5 billion in annual cost. In its most recent earnings statement, Disney's broadcast and cable TV businesses suffered a drop in revenue and profit, the result of higher programming costs and fewer subscribers on channels devoted to entertainment. I think what's happening is Disney's starting to learn what the American people really want. And it's not what they've been doing. In fact, Disney went so far left, it looked like they were going to fall off the side of the earth. A pullback by American shoppers has led to more caution from national retailers about their sales potential in 2025. This is a statement from Abercrombie and Fitch. U.S. consumer confidence plunged last month, the biggest monthly decline in more than 4 years, according to the Conference Board. Respondents to the board survey expressed concern over inflation, with a significant increase in mentions of trade and tariffs. And last, from Reuters, Greater Toronto area home sales tumbled in February, and home prices declined for a third straight month as an uncertain trade outlook weighed on the home buyers' confidence. This data comes from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Seasonally adjusted sales were down 28.5%. It's a huge number. On a month-over-month basis to 4,326 units after climbing 12.4% in January. Compared to February 2024, sales were down 27.4%. 4%. So there's the news from Wall Street. Let's bring it home. If we can find it. There it is. Logic 247. It's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. Not just E-minis, also crude, gold, silver. Over the last 344 weeks, we've issued over 19,000 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders in their one-on-one mentoring sessions. Valerie did this recap at 6:30 a.m. Eastern this morning. She will, of course, update it this afternoon or early evening as she does each day. At the time of the recap, since the markets opened this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued a total of 32 alerts. At the time of the recap, we were still waiting on the outcome of 11. That gave us 21 actionable alerts, of which 4 or 19% would have been stopped out. Again, based on market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. So we're right at that 20% average that we've enjoyed for 344 weeks. We've had a couple weeks where we came in over 20%, and we've even had some weeks where it was 0%. So today's only Wednesday. We'll see where we're at end of the week. Now the logical alerts, yes, you can trade them, but the real purpose is to help you learn how to read the chart. You should be able to look at any chart of any market and instinctively know what the next high probability move is with the use of our humble indicator set. You should be able to spot resistance, potential support. I say potential because nobody knows what's going to happen next in the market. I know lots of folks claim they do, but trust me, they don't. It's simply not possible. Too many participants, too many moving parts. Some big institutional trader could simply get heartburn and yank a massive order, and other traders freak out. He just went to get some Tums at the corner drugstore. When he gets back, he plans to put the order back on. You get the idea. So, while it's impossible to know with 100% certainty what the market will do next, you can know what the next high probability move is. And as we've showed over 344 weeks and over 19,000 alerts, about 20% of the time, the market does not do the next high probability thing. Why? Go ask the market. Maybe it's the guy with the heartburn. I can't say. Now, every logic alert has an entry price, an initial target, additional targets, and a final trade to target. Again, the purpose of the alerts, the true purpose, is to help you learn how to read the chart. Please take advantage of the opportunity, okay, while you have it. Because if your plan is to trade for a living, you gotta learn how to read the chart. Now, if you want to be a lawyer, you gotta learn how to read the law books, right? You gotta be able to read case law. Well, that's words and sentences and paragraphs, etc. But charts of the market, unless you're a fundamental trader, and we're not, we're technical traders, it's candles. It's open, high, lows, close bars. It's how price flows. It's how the market reacts to previous support, previous resistance, etc. So, again, use the logic alerts as they're intended. And if you want to trade them, well, I guess you can go right ahead and do that. Now, long before we had Logic 247, and that's hard to imagine because 344 weeks is a very long time, but way before we had Logic 247, we had our concierge trade alerts, and we still do. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 24/7. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. But the CTAs don't come out around the clock. They're posted as a static report shortly after the Globex open, and in some cases, like last night, 5 minutes before the open. 2 days in a row, I managed to get it done. I endeavor every day to get them out 5 minutes before the open. I've been on this for now, I guess, a couple months. And I put a note in the discussion group that says CTAs are scheduled to come out at 5:55 p.m. Eastern. We all know today's the Wednesday session, but it started Tuesday night, last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And the Thursday session, that'll start tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Stocks close at 4 p.m. Eastern, but futures keep trading until 5 p.m. Eastern. Then there's an hour break. I guess they got to empty the ashtray, sweep the floor, whatever. And then we reopen, and it's a new day at 6 p.m. Eastern. So last night, all of our members, all of our trial members, had all of these targets 5 minutes before the open. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. And as we go through these charts, it's going to blow your mind depends on what you've been watching today. Maybe you're focused on just one market. You don't know what's happened across the board in the broader markets. But we're going to take a look right here, right now. We'll start where we always do, with the daily chart of the S&P 500, also known as the bellwether. Why is that? Because the other markets, while sometimes they'll get ahead of the S&P or lag behind the S&P, wherever the S&P goes, ultimately, that's pretty much where the other markets go. Now, 2 days in a row, we've come down and hit or spiked the 38% fib retracement. Now, when you hit a fib on a daily chart, you expect a pretty good bounce, like the one we got here. But the market's been so heavy. I mean, we got some nice bounces at the 24, but here at the 38, we've spiked it and recovered, spiked it and recovered, hitting this trend line twice, but there's a wall of worry the market has to climb. First, we got to get above the step line. That's potential resistance, red and falling, potential resistance. The 24% fib retracement, now that we're below it, that's potential resistance. And then the daily BBC. The green line's called the BBC. It stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and anticipate higher prices. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and anticipate lower prices. The pullback to the BBC holds more often than not, whether it's pulling down from above or pulling up from below, even when it spikes it like it did right there. See where the session closed, right at the BBC. So, another heavy market. We do have an inside day, and what that means is we haven't taken out yesterday's high. We haven't taken out yesterday's low yet. 57.44 was the low yesterday. Today, 57.50 and 3/4. Often an inside day can be the beginning of a transition. Now, there's no guarantee we're going to close with an inside day. If we close here or higher, you can see that the black step line it started to lean right, then it kind of straightened out, and now it looks undecided. Why is that important? When the black step line crosses red and falling, we typically see a retracement back to the BBC. No matter what time frame you're on, the BBC is always relative to whatever time frame you're using it on. Now, daily charts are important because institutional traders, the ones with huge account size, hundreds of millions, billions, trillions of dollars, who trade in huge size, they're the ones that move price. So I encourage you to spend 2 minutes every day with the daily chart of whatever it is you're about to trade. Now, you're not only looking over the shoulder of the deep pockets who move price, but you're able to identify major areas of support and resistance that you won't be able to see on your smaller time frames. Now, on a smaller time frame, you might, depends on what small time frame, whether it's a range chart or 5-minute chart, 15-minute chart. You might be able to see the low of today, but you probably won't be able to see, that 58.69 right now. If the market were to start rallying, that's kind of like a brick wall, and then another one. So you're getting the big picture view. You see, after being way down here, the market rallied, but will it stick? Yesterday, we were way down here, but by the close, we were back above the 38% fib retracement. This 50% fib retracement, it's been a long time since we had a 50% fib retracement on the daily chart. Is it possible we could see one? If today remains an inside day, then I would say there's hope for a bounce. If we close below the 38, we got support at today's low, yesterday's low, and then we got this one little area right here, some potential support there, and then not only do we have the 50% fib retracement, which under normal conditions would give you a huge bounce, you've also got a bullish cross there. That's when the blue line gets above the green line. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. So we're going to call this support times 2. The 50% fib and the previous bullish cross. Now, all of the alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just the time frame I chose many years ago. They say if it's not broke, leave it alone. So I took that advice. The vertical line right here separates today, Wednesday, from Tuesday. Back over here, you can see Monday. When price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect it to be resistance until proven otherwise. When price drops to a weekly trading zone, we expect it to be support until proven otherwise. When the market finds support, it will go look for resistance. Remember, the pullback holds more often than not, especially if you have red and falling overhead. And that took us down through the zone. Then we retraced back to the zone we sliced through and continued in the direction of the slice. Now, only one of three things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the time you get consolidation, 20% of the time you get rejection, 10% of the time you get the slice, like this one here. Now, when that slice runs out of steam, it will typically retrace back to the zone it sliced through and continue in the direction of the slice. Does it happen every time? No. Few things happen every time in the markets. So, as you can see, I said it was an inside day. We haven't taken out yesterday's low, nor have we taken out yesterday's high. Okay. We've just kind of been consolidating sideways with a bias to the downside. We consolidated at the zone, and we finally made a drop at 11 o'clock Eastern to the short target. Never really made a run at the long target. This support right here, based off this low right here, see that? Follow the horizontal line. That support has sent the market looking for resistance. Now we got resistance times 2, the BBC and the zone. If we continue to climb here, keep in mind you've got potential resistance at 58.17, and then right here you had a bearish cross. That's where the red line gets below the green line. When that happens and it leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good resistance. Every time? No. More often than not? Yes. So if the S continues to climb, you got two key areas very near. 58.17, 58.21, and then right here about 58.43, and then here 58.61. That would actually get us up to the long target, and that would turn some frowns upside down on Wall Street and across the world, I think. So it looks like it's got a little pep in its step. Just remember, these obstacles, looks like we just overcame that one. Okay, now we got to overcome this one. That's important. Remember, the first time up is typically resistance, but the second or third time up, it could glide right through it. In fact, it could glide right through it here. You can see already it's backing off a little bit, but it still looks pretty bullish. Now, what you want to watch for is red and falling. Now, when that black step line crossed red and falling, that told us to expect a retracement to the BBC. Look how red and falling is starting to curl up. That means it's probably on its way to turning into blue and climbing, just like happened yesterday. Okay, step line crossed, ran to the BBC, but with the help of blue and climbing, we made it well above. So, could we see the same thing happen here? Just watch this and see if it turns to blue and climbing. Okay, on the Dow. Here's where we opened last night, right at the weekly zone. Again, we just consolidated sideways. The market just not much movement. But we did find resistance at the weekly zone above till this morning. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling, and down we go to the short target. When the market finds support, it's going to go look for resistance. So we spiked the BBC, spiked it, and typically when you see a group of wicks like that to the upside, that's bearish. So I'm thinking there's some good news out there somewhere, because the Dow has now overcome the BBC. It's trying to overcome the zone, and red and falling is already turned into blue and climbing. See that right there? That's what we're waiting for the ES to do. And we're still struggling right at that previous bearish cross. Once this turns to blue and climbing, though, you're going to want to watch this resistance and this potential resistance right here. So now the Dow has to overcome the zone, which is 42,890/895. The zones are published every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. We've published the zones for our members every week since December 14th of 2009. That's now over 15 years. So we couldn't get through the zone at 4:30 a.m. Eastern. Can we do it now? It's surprising to see this movement with these three wicks here. But again, 20% of the time the market doesn't do what you would expect it to do if you know how to read the chart. From here, I would say, 42, what's this high? 43,038. So 43,010. Yeah, maybe we can, let's say 4,300 to 4,320. 4,300 to 4,320. That's enough to get your goal for the day. And then it might just keep going. And if it overcomes the long target, which is based off this high from yesterday, who knows what could happen. On the Russell, yesterday we hit the lowest weekly trading zone, and then we bounced almost to the zone overhead. Like I said, once the zones are published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. You'll notice the step line crossed blue and climbing here. That tells us to expect a retracement back to the BBC. And as you can see, the pullback holds more often than not. Once red and falling turned to blue and climbing, that was just the goose we needed to take us up to the long target. 2115.6. So we missed it by, I guess, a couple ticks, but pretty close. With the Russell, it only takes 2 points to get your goal for the day. And this candle right here opened at 2110, ran up to 2115 and change. So certainly room in there to grab your 2 points for the day. Now, resistance is always going to send the market looking for support. You'll notice we spiked our and the retracement took us right back to the VBC. Again, only 3 things happen at a weekly zone. 70% of the time, consolidation. 20% of the time, rejection. 10% of the time, the slice. Okay? So we've come down to support. Pull back to the VBC held. This was a green candle all the way up. But look where it closed. Way back down at the short target. We got below the target. And this low was just above this low. Always looking left. So buyers came in early. So there may be some life in this move. But if we trade through the VBC, the market found support, now it's looking for resistance. Just like here. That could happen here. If it doesn't, then that high right there $20.97.4 potential resistance. Then you've got a bearish cross right here. Remember, the first time up, we expect that to be good resistance until proven otherwise. Second or third time up, it may break right through it. We just got a new 30-minute candle. Red and falling is curling. Once that becomes blue and climbing, that just might take us here, here, and then we've got potential resistance here, 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 and that would put us at the long target. On the NQ, here's where we opened last night. We dropped to the VBC, the pullback held, and once red and falling turned to blue and climbing, it got us almost up to the zone. We missed it by a bit, but resistance nonetheless. Resistance sends the market looking for support. Temporarily we got it at the VBC, but with red and falling overhead, it took us right down to the zone. Consolidated, that's wide-ranging consolidation. See support, send us up to resistance, back to support. Now we've overcome blue and climbing. We've overcome this bearish cross. That's a big deal. Now, as this candle was forming, we may have seen some resistance there. It might have taken a couple of whacks at it, but it finally broke through. Down here, red and falling has turned to blue and climbing. So I suspect we're going to see this zone, possibly more. But just remember the hiccup last night. We didn't quite get to the zone. 2629.75. That was the high right here. Okay. But again, with blue and climbing below, that's bullish. We'll see if we can overcome this zone if we get there. And then the long target is at 27.34. Crude. Wow, what a hammer. This is the lowest weekly zone for the week. Like I said, once the zones are published, they don't change. Now, typically, when we get to the lowest weekly zone on a Tuesday, yesterday, by the end of the week, we are often at the other end of the spectrum. Will that happen this week? I can't say. But based on 15 years of history with the zones, we would expect price at close of business Friday to be at 66.90/95 or above. Does it happen with every market every week? No. Does it happen more often than not? Yeah. Have the last few weeks been extremely volatile and given us scenarios where it didn't happen in a number of markets? Yes and yes. In fact, while crude has broken the lowest weekly zone at 66.90, gold has broken its highest weekly zone. No, it hasn't. Sorry about that. Still got one more zone overhead. Okay. So here's the open last night. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling, and down we go to the zone where we expect support. We almost got to the short target, which is right here, but buyers came in early. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing. We got a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement. On this leg, we ran into red and falling, and that sent us all the way back down in one candle. That's off the 8:30 news to the short target. And we even spiked it. See this low right here? We spiked that low by just a bit. Then buyers came in and took it and ran it all the way up to the long target. So we hit both the short target and the long target. And last, silver. This is the highest weekly zone for silver. We opened here last night, dropped to the BBC, pullback holds more often than not. Then we had the perfect stack on the way up. Price, step line, blue and climbing, BBC. We traded through the long target, and then we retraced. When we trade through a long target, and price always moves in legs. Leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, right? See how that target, that long target, became support? That sent us up to red and falling, which is bearish. So that sent us down through the BBC. And then we had this one doji here and an inside candle. And then the buying commenced at the 9:30 Wall Street open. Yep, that's right. This was typically the Wall Street candle, the 30-minute candle. At the Wall Street open will be the biggest candle of the day. So we got a leg, a retracement. See, this was green all the way up. Then it pulled back. Then we hit the BBC. Now what are we doing? We're consolidating at the highest weekly trading zone. Notice the step line starting to hook right. If we continue to consolidate, what's going to happen is the step line will cross blue and climbing, And if that happens, we would anticipate a retracement back to the BBC. Then the question becomes, of course, will the pullback hold? It holds more often than not. Held and it held and it held until it didn't hold. So remember, while we know that the pullback holds more often than not, eventually it will trade through. That keeps the markets fluid and tradable. And see what's happening right now? As that step line hooks right, it's just on the edge of crossing blue and climbing. So the big question is going to be, now silver's up considerably on the day. A $1 move in the price of silver, that's worth about $5,000 per contract traded. And I guess this is a little over $2,500 we're looking at. Now blue and climbing is also potential support. So we got resistance. The zone is 3310/11. The good news, you only need 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. So if you're trading silver, let price retrace to the BBC. Find out, is it going to hold or not? And then proceed with caution. And keep in mind, this is the highest weekly zone for the week. So on the daily chart, we're still battling with that 38% Fib retracement. Still have an inside day. We could end up closing here, here, or here. Or we could get a surprise to the upside. And I gotta say, if this candle turns green before the close, I would be very surprised. But you got to embrace all possibilities. Okay? All right. That covers all the markets. Reminder, Michael will be back in the saddle Monday morning at the regular time. You're welcome to join us in the mornings. It's audio only in the live training room this week. If you're ready to become a member, send an email to support@cfrn.net. In the subject line, just put, I want to become a member. In the body of the email, put your name, your phone number. We're not going to call you, but we're going to send you an email that explains what it means to be a passport holder. Number one, you're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day. 9 out of 10 new traders don't have that. Can't find that. Wish they had that. You can. Now, I wish I could guarantee you that you would be the 1 out of 10, but I can't. No matter what happens, we give you the information, we give you the tools to do the job, you get all the training in the world, but what you do with that information and those indicators, we have no control over. But at least you have a shot at being the 1 out of 10. Because you have what 9 out of 10 new traders don't have, a teacher. Now, the live training room, that's an interactive environment, 2 hours every trading day. You're watching Michael put on and take off trades in live markets in real time, explaining every move he makes, every trade he takes, while you trade along in your demo account so that you can qualify to go live. Stefan just posted in the discussion group, the Trump talk with Trudeau just ended. That rally we were seeing perhaps had something to do with it. Now I'm curious. Well, we're definitely, let's look a little closer. Okay, that bearish cross. You could say we spiked it a little bit, but we still got blue and climbing below. So we've got support times 2 right here. Let this candle finish. And then if the next candle starts printing green, 58.18 to 58.21, that would be 3 points. Very conservative. But again, wait for the next candle. Because apparently something that Trump and Trudeau spoke about, the markets liked. Now we'll see if they really like it. As a passport holder, not only do you get 2 hours of live training every trading day, you also get private one-on-one mentoring, no extra charge. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder, are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETF, it doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. You also get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock. Get the concierge trade alerts the second they're posted every evening. Whether it's 5 minutes before the open or shortly thereafter. Again, I always try to make a post in the discussion group that says I've got it scheduled for 5:55 p.m. Eastern. And on days when I know I'm not going to be able to do that, I also try to post a note. So you're not sitting there waiting for something that isn't going to happen at that exact time. Monday mornings at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones. And again, once they're posted or published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. Even if we exceed the highest zone or get below the lowest zone, the zones themselves don't change. And you're able to attend the members only workshop every Thursday night. Plus, you get the golden key that opens the private channels in Telegram. We have public channels, we have private channels, but as a passport holder in good standing, you will, in fact, have access to all the Telegram channels, and there's quite a few. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. Gone are the days of trying to piece together a little something from over here and a little something from over here and a little something from here, when you can just have it all in one place. That's a good thing. Just send your email to support@cfrn.net. Let us know if you're ready to become a member. So let's wrap it up with our good word for the day. Yesterday we talked about being friends with God. Sounds like a good thing. Today we'll talk about tackling your giant head on. 1 Samuel 17:50. David prevailed with a sling and a stone. American pastor Chuck Swindoll says Goliath reminds me of the visually impaired discus thrower. He didn't set any records, but he sure kept the crowd awake. Every day Goliath paraded along the slopes of the valley of Elah, issuing threats. The only response from the Israeli troops was the sound of knees knocking and teeth chattering. The giant's strategy of fear and intimidation worked until David introduced him to the Lord of hosts, and with a sling and a stone struck the Philistine and killed him. 1 Samuel 17:50. To this day, two timeless truths remain. 1. You won't win the battle by employing the enemy's technique. When you fight with the world's weapons, you become like the world. The Bible says, but there was no sword in the hand of David's hand. That's also in Samuel 17:50. The thing that made him unique and gave him victory was his inner shield of faith. It kept him free from fear, cleared his vision, and gave him composure amidst the chaos. 2. Slaying giants takes skill and discipline. Wielding the sling and stone of the Spirit is much more delicate than swinging the club of the flesh. Paul says in Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Now, wrestling isn't a team sport. Goliath said, "Choose one man to come down and fight me." 1 Samuel 17:8. For the duration of the battle, you're the enemy's sole target. So if you're facing your own personal giant, whatever it is, be like David. Turn it over to God, load up your sling, and let God win the victory for you. And that's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.